Hello, it's Grey Girls and Gaijin. We're back. We hope you're having a happy day wherever you're listening to this audio content from. As always, we'd like to thank you for your continued support of Grey Girls and Gaijin social media and writing efforts. Thank you, thank you, thank you. This is episode 054 of the Grey Girls and Gaijin, definitely not a podcast show, a light and fluffy look at social media, Japan, Japanese food, expat life, and life in general. As always, your retweets of this and all the wonderful, wonderful, wonderful content that we actively tweet and retweet out on Craig Hoffman 11 on Twitter is appreciated. Thank you in advance for helping us get the good word out about Grey, Grizzled, and Gaijin. Welcome back. Another great show today. I hope not a Japan-related or a social media-related topic. Today we're talking about summer vacation. I'm away from the salt mines, which is always a wonderful, wonderful, wonderful thing. I just got back from a fantastic time in Singapore. If you have never been to Singapore, or you have never thought about it, or even if you have considered it on some level, whether you live in Japan or another part of the world, I highly, highly, highly recommend that you take a trip to Singapore. Talk a little bit about my tour and trip and feelings and experiences about Singapore. Not a Singaporean expert to any degree. I just really, really enjoyed the trip, and I wanted to remember it while the memories were fresh in my head, and I have time as a major typhoon is coming towards Japan as I record this afternoon, and so I'm stuck inside. So rather than do nothing and be lazy, I thought I would make good use of the time and talk about Singapore. So if you love Japan, we'll be back at that certainly on the next show. If you love social media, certainly there'll be more content on that in the future. But today we're taking a little break and enjoying life and talking about summer vacation in Singapore. So last week I went to Singapore, as I said, took a night flight from Japan. I can't say I recommend that. I understand why the tour does that. I went to the airport. The flight was a little late. I actually didn't get on the plane until about 12 a.m. in the night, of course, with the family. And everybody was tired, and I thought that we would sleep, but quickly the airline, Singapore Airlines, highly recommended, great airline, great service, the in-flight entertainment, the food was wonderful, and the staff was great, but they come at you quickly with a variety of drinks and also in-flight shopping and things like that, and that's to their credit. That's what they do. They have to make money, but at 12 a.m., really all I wanted to do was sleep. The plane was really, really, really ice cold, and I made the mistake of putting my light jacket up in the luggage, so that wasn't so good. But it's about 6 hours from Japan, so it was a rather uneventful flight. We did run into a little turbulence, which cost me my shot at some hot coffee, which turned out later to be quite a problem to find in Singapore outside of Starbucks. We got off the flight. We checked in. Immigration at Changi, I hope I said that right, airport, the major airport in Singapore, as it were, was great, easy to do. They give you some forms. We slid right through. I was in and out of customs and immigration in like 10 minutes after I picked up my luggage. It was fantastic. And so after that, we waited and we met our tour group leader, and we waited for about another 45 minutes as other connecting flights were coming into Singapore from the Tokyo airports to join our tour group. There ended up in the first day being about 27 people on our tour and on our bus, and 9 of those or so were children, some older people and some younger people, and everybody was really nice and kind, and the staff was not Singaporean but a Chinese guy who was quite fluent in Japanese, as it was a Japanese tour, and he was above average in English and of course fluent in Chinese, so he was quite useful as he took us around the city. The first day we hit the tour right away. We went to several shopping areas. We went into the Chinatown Heritage Center. That was great. I had a little snack there. Walked around, very few people, which was really surprising as it was a 4-day holiday weekend. National Day was part on that day when I first arrived, but very few people, again, in the Chinatown. That was quite an interesting tour. Quick, 30 minutes, and it was a hop on, take your picture and get right back on kind of thing. I went to the Sultan Mosque, which is the largest mosque in Singapore, and I believe it's built about 1825. So that was a sight to behold. Not a lot of people. It was shut down for a variety of Muslim holidays. So again, there were very few people. It was a great opportunity to walk around, and there are several shops and restaurants, which I didn't go to, but it was a great opportunity too to take some nice pictures, and again in the Chinatown Heritage Center too. And so if you're really interested in pictures, I recommend that you go early, because it didn't seem like there were very many people and certainly no tourists around. I also went to a great restaurant that first day for lunch with chicken and rice called the Chatterbox, and that's in Orchard Hotel. Fantastic again. In the afternoon, I went to the National Orchid Garden. The National Orchid Garden has like 60,000 plants. And so again, I was a quick tour, walk around for about 30 minutes, taking some pictures and enjoying the views. But if you had more time, that would be definitely an area that one who loves nature photography could snap to their heart's desire. It's getting a little tired, so we're after lunch and the tour is still going on. We stopped a couple other places, again, hop off. It got a little difficult to get around as it was National Day, and the police were putting up barricades to keep traffic from going into certain areas where the parade was going on, which we could not see because we're not Singaporean nor permanent residents. That's a lottery system that they do. So I can't recommend that you go to Singapore on National Day if you're looking to get out in the city and do a lot of things, because if we had not been on the bus, it would have been really, really, really hard to get back to our hotel. The bus driver drove around several times before he found an accessible road that the police allowed him to go down through. I stayed at the Marina Bay Sands. That was great. It's designed by some Israeli-born architect, Sadafi, as I recall. And it's got a casino and malls and shopping and everything you could ever want. High-end shopping all the way down to like, there's a connected shopping area with like Moss Burger if you're in Japan and you know that. There's also a Burger King out that way, a Subway sandwich shop. So you can go from the cheapest stuff all the way down to the high-end shopping. There's a great two tea centers or shops. I bought some great tea for souvenirs for my family as well as for my kids' piano teacher. So that was great. And we checked in about 4 o'clock. Check-in was really quick. People did wait in the Marina Bay Sands to check in. I was on a group tour, so they had already pre-checked me in, grabbed my keys, and I went up to my room, which was a really premium suite. Fantastic room. Not cheap. It was about $800 US a night. Peak prices again for the National Day and National Holiday weekend in Singapore. Oddly, most of the people staying in the Marina Bay Sands were Singaporean who were coming in and around to enjoy the parade and those events. Not a lot of foreign tourists, which was kind of surprising. The next morning, I got up, 6 o'clock. I heard the infinity pool. That's the huge, actually the largest rooftop pool in the world. 3 Olympic-sized pools, as I read somewhere. And I worried about getting in. I read reviews on TripAdvisor, if you know that, and they said, oh, don't go there. There's a lot of people, and it's terrible, and people with selfie sticks taken. I went at 6, and I was the only person there outside of my family. We walked up and down 3 or 4 times, took some nice pictures. So that was kind of cool. We had the whole pool to ourselves, other than like 3 staff members who were setting up a variety of towels and things like that. So that was cool. The downside was at 6 a.m. in Singapore, it's dark. So my pictures are good but not great. And we stayed for about 30 minutes or so, and I came back down and I went to the breakfast buffet on the first floor called Rise. There's actually a couple other restaurants that your breakfast buffet with your room you can stay, but I was told all the food is all the same. So we picked that both mornings I was there. And the food was great. The buffet was great. We walked right in. I didn't wait. I was worried again about long lines trying to get into breakfast, and there weren't anything, and no problem at all. I walked right in. Staff was very, very quick. Coffee was served. An omelet making guy. The breakfast was a wide variety of Japanese and Asian and even a little Indian cuisine on the menu. It was great. And American eggs and bacon and sausage, chicken and pork, as I recall, if you like that. So well worth, I think it's like 45 Singaporean dollars per person and like $25 for kids. So a good value. Everybody enjoyed. Nobody complained about the food at all. Headed back out that day Mid-afternoon, in the morning, I went down and walked the shopping area and out to Gardens by the Bay, really famous area that you really can't miss. It was free to kind of walk around that area, and I really enjoyed that. It's more than $1 billion worth of construction and plants and things there. They got super trees and sculptures that are really great that my wife wanted to enjoy, and some like biodome kind of things. And I guess it replicates like Mediterranean dry climates, if that's your thing. A really nice walk with my family, great picture taking opportunities, and really, again, no people. They were cleaning up from the National Day celebration, so there were people putting away the barricades that I spoke about earlier, as well as some of the stalls where they had a lot of food and concerts set up. But we walked around uninhibited, and it was really great to just enjoy the nature and the beauty, and there's surely a lot of that. Again, I came back and we bought a special tour, and on that first night, I should back up. On the first night, actually, I was really busy. I got to my hotel and I went to the night safari. It was this afterthought. They kept saying, don't go out. There's a lot of people. You're going to get lost. It's going to be hard to get back to the hotel. But I didn't know what to do for dinner. So I booked the night safari, and highly recommend the night safari. I don't recommend the buffet restaurant that's there. That was kind of average to slightly below average. I'm not knocking it. It was food and it was good, and I was happy to eat because I was hungry. But I certainly was a little disappointed in comparison to the other food that I had had during my vacation. The night safari, great. Electric trams, you drive around in these little carts, guided tours. They got like 130 species, tigers and elephants and deer that get really close to you. And there's also a little forest area that you can kind of walk through and see some wild cats and things. It's great. You could also take a walking tour, as I saw, but I'm on vacation, so I'm certainly not going to walk there. That was the first night. Again, that was an extra tour that I paid. That was like $270 Singaporean for 3 people. So again, it's not cheap. And you see a reoccurring theme here about Singapore if you go on such a tour. I went on a very first class tour, I should say, as you probably are starting to gather. But I made no apologies for that. That was my dream, and that's what I wanted to do. I've been married to my wife for 10 years, so it was a celebration of that as well. The second day, jumping back, we went to Sentosa Island, which is a little island just off the main Singapore area, and went by bus and city bus at one point, and a little monorail, and they drive really fast and stop really quickly in Singapore, so it was quite different from riding smooth buses and trains and things here in Japan. But we walked out there. It was really hot. There were a lot of people. Universal Studios Singapore was full of people. That was not my tour. I could have taken that tour, but I already went to USJ, Universal Studios in Japan, so I didn't have much interest in that. And it was hot. I didn't really want to be outside all day. Instead, my tour went to the SEA Aquarium, and there are like 800 species of aquatic creatures there. And it's a really amazing complex. And they've got like, 49 aquatic areas. And it covers like Southeast Asia, Australia, Africa, and all the big stuff. Very nice aquarium. We waited like 90 minutes to get in. So if you're short on time and you think you're going to just hop out there on like a weekend or national holiday and go in and check it out, that is not going to happen. And it was hot standing there. There was some shade, so it wasn't completely unbearable. But wow, that was really, really hot. So we came back and we had some local cuisine at night, and I actually went to a Michelin restaurant which was called the Blue Ginger, which you'll find in many of the guidebooks. That place was fantastic. A very nice shrimp dish and some other dishes that I ate on a big round table with my fellow tour members. My family really enjoyed that a lot. It's Michelin starred with good reason. A little hard to get into. They do a lot of bus tours at night, so you should definitely make a reservation. There's the Hawker Center, which is like the food court area across the street. It was a bad time to go because national holiday, a lot of that was shut down and closed. But if you wanted to get, or rather kill 2 birds with 1 stone, you could do the Blue Ginger and then hop on over for a little snack at that hawker center that's right across the street. There's also a Japanese izakaya. Oddly enough, all the Chinese people were going to the Japanese restaurant, and all the Japanese people in my group went to the Chinese restaurant or Hong Kong thing. That was kind of cool. I enjoyed that a lot. I also checked out another Hong Kong kind of themed restaurant and a local Singaporean kind of high-end restaurant that was part of the tour. Again, not cheap. It was like $90. I guess I'm thinking in yen, 9,000 yen. So that's about 90 or so, almost 100 Singaporean dollars, more than 100 Singaporean dollars. Great though, highly recommended. And I took a riverboat cruise in front of like the Marina Bay Sands and by the and that kind of thing. Highly recommended. It was 40 minutes up and down. Great photo picture taking opportunities. There was a little concert going on in that area. It seemed to be a really happening area. There were some Western shops and some bars, and people looked like they were having a good time. I stepped up and saw some of the prices. Definitely not cheap. So, drinking, I'm sure if you're doing any amount of research on Singapore, you'll see that drinking is not cheap. I went to Merlion out there on Sentosa, jumping back to Sentosa for a minute. Well organized. That tour was great. A good chance again to buy some souvenirs for people, which I did. I bought a couple keychains or something. And that was great. You can go up and both in the eye and in the mouth, and you can take a picture. And that was kind of a fun and a really good memory. And again, I came back and did the riverboat cruise. I came back to the Marina Bay Sands Hotel, and I had room service. Marina Bay Sands room service was quick, fast, and high quality. Again, not cheap. It's where I was able to drink a Singapore Sling. I was going to go to the Raffles Hotel, which is where that drink actually started, but that hotel is under renovation, so that was a no-no. Again, not cheap. It was like 22 Singaporean dollars for a Singapore Sling. Well made, strong, and stiff, as I had written on my review of the hotel in one of the accompanying mini blogs that I have done for this series. You have to have a Singapore Sling. Call me crazy, but you go to Singapore, you have to have the Singapore Sling at least once. And so I did. And I had a couple other beers during there, but I didn't drink a lot. I bought a lot of water. People asked, is the water safe to drink? Some of the people in my group thought that was a big no-no. I did a lot of research. The drinking tap water in Singapore is greatly improved. They run it through any number of filtration systems. Some of the private government housing buildings have like collections on the roof. I think that's where some of this urban legend comes from, that the water is not good. But they even check those. My wife drank the tap water. She's perfectly fine. I stuck to bottled water, as did my family, but no real reason. I don't drink tap water in Japan particularly, so I wasn't trying to run away from the water in Singapore. I just drink bottled water here, so I bought bottled water. The bus tour offered like nice bottles of water for like $1, so that was cool. So we did that. The next morning I came down and went back to the pool a little later. The sun was out, took some very nice pictures with my family. Came again about 8 o'clock, 8:30, and ate at the breakfast buffet. Again, no line. I walked right in. Same service, same good food. It was a little more expensive on Sunday for my kid, about little more than $25, or right at 25 Singaporean dollars. That was good. I went to the gift shop and picked up some nice souvenirs, some t-shirts and that. Here's the thing about the exchange rate I learned quickly. You might get a good exchange rate exchanging from your currency, home currency, to Singaporean dollars, but when you exchange back, it's terrible. So I had this kind of money to burn, so I used it on the room service. I paid cash, which you can do right at the room, and I used it on more souvenirs on the t-shirts and about 4 other keychains for friends and family. So again, be careful, if you exchange all your money, and cash is king, as I said. My wife used her credit card at some high-end shopping, which she really, really enjoyed, and I'll be working until I'm dead at about 100 years old to pay for it, but that's another post. And the other shops and tours, she kind of used the credit card for it without incident, and it was quite easy. The local shops, especially Chinatown, and walking around and getting a little bit here and there, some of them did seem like they would take credit cards, but they looked really, really happy when I pulled out some Singaporean dollars to pay for things, as did my bus tour when I bought extra things. They said, credit cards are fine, but if you have Singapore dollars, that's the way to go. But again, if you exchange too much and at the end of the tour you have money left, you're just going to throw it away on the exchange rate, so you might as well buy more gifts or splurge on something fun and a nice dinner and that. People talked about the crowds and thought Singapore was really busy, busy, busy. I don't know the definition of busy for some people. I live in Japan. Maybe that makes me a bit biased and different. I walked downtown Gardens by the Bay. We did the night light show. Highly recommended. There were people. I walked up the stairs. It was full of people, but nobody bumped me. I walked completely through and without incident, and I'm not the best walker these days with some hip and back trouble. So I walked, and one woman in my group was like 85 years old, and she had no trouble in the crowds and walking around. So it's a little bit overstated. Bubbles of people around the popular area, and then nothing, and nothing is open rather, and nobody is walking around. Traffic is pretty light because cars are extremely expensive to drive in Singapore, so you're not going to get completely run over. People are a bit more aggressive than you might want, so you best make sure that if you stop, they stop, and if you don't stop, they're not going to stop. I found that out quick on a corner. There was the security, the idea the police are coming after you and finding you for things. The police were maybe perhaps busy with the National Day. All the police I saw were simply directing traffic, stopping the walkers and telling the cars to go and making sure people didn't illegally stop and park. I had absolutely no trouble with the rule, and I followed all the rules. Of course, that's important. Of course, I'm not bringing in terrible things to Singapore, so that also is to my benefit, right? But the idea that they're sitting around waiting to jump on tourists for tickets, I didn't get that at all. I'm not saying that you should run around doing stupid junk in Singapore, but if you follow the rules, and there's a million signs for everything from in the bathroom, don't stand in the bathroom and do terrible things, to don't walk here and don't move here and don't turn here. If you follow the signs like a school kid, you're going to have absolutely no problem in Singapore at all. So I got back to Songji Airport, and I had a very nice lunch. They have nice kiosks that you can order from. Spicy bowl of noodles. That was great. Again, Singapore Airlines back to Japan. The chicken and rice on the airplane flight was fantastic. The in-flight entertainment, as I said in the opening, was quite good. I saw that new Avengers Endgame movie and several other movies. I watched Mary Poppins Returns, very good movie, high quality, good sound. Staff was very helpful when I had a question. I got up to go to the restroom. They quickly asked, do you need anything? They even suggested that I use chili sauce on my chicken and rice when they saw that I had ordered that. Most people were Japanese. They ordered like the pork, the shio pork, which is like the salt pork meal. I ordered the chicken and rice. I thought it was a good chance to try it one more time. The beers were crisp and fresh, and I enjoyed drinking a couple for free on Singapore Airlines. Got off again through Kansai Customs here in Kansai Airport. Again, no problem. Walked right through. All my documents were in order. That process has been streamlined, and I took a taxi from Osaka back to where I live. That was a couple $100, but there was no choice because there's no night bus that late and the trains weren't running. And I bought some stuff at the convenience store, and I came home and I drank and I dropped and went to bed, and that was my tour. Again, thoughts on Singapore. I thought extremely clean, as many people will tell you. Extremely safe. Streets are well lit. I thought it was expensive, especially for basic things like I enjoy doing, like drinking. So I did kind of put the kibosh on drinking too much. I thought food overall was very, very high quality, very good, and very worth the money. I didn't spend a lot of time eating at the cheap places. I went to, again, Michelin star restaurants and high-end places that you'll see in the guidebook. All of the sightseeing provided tons of opportunities for great photographs. The crowds were heavy at times, but certainly nothing that was unbearable. The heat, it got hot from about 3 to 7, surprisingly so. And so I did sweat a little bit there, but again, by the evening, it had cooled down considerably, and in the morning, I walked around with little to no perspiration. So I was most happy about that. People asked me, would I go back to Singapore? Yes, I probably wouldn't go back on the first class tour. That was, I can't understate that, or overstate that rather enough. It's a first class tour. I recommend personally, based on what I saw other people doing and other foreigners walking around, go on an upper side of the tour. I don't know that you have to go on the tour I went on, like a very super first class tour, But I think if you're going to go to Singapore, you should fully enjoy all that Singapore has to offer. And it looked like and seemed like, and again, in the short time I was there, people who really enjoyed Singapore threw down a lot of money to go into all the great attractions and eat all the wonderful food and move around Singapore. So there's that. Again, could you go around on a backpacker's dream? Probably. You could eat at any number of the little fast food shops and spend a couple bucks. And certainly accommodations were much cheaper. I saw a Holiday Inn, if you know that national chain, for like 200 Singaporean dollars. But again, Marina Bay Sands was iconic. Everybody I talked to, in our group, I said, why do you come to Singapore? I said, oh, I want to stay in the Marina Bay Sands. I asked my family, what was your favorite part of Singapore? And without fail, everybody in my family said the food and the pool. So think about Singapore next time you go. Do your research. That's it. And have a great day.